this post-budget webinar on content creation labs in schools and colleges. Welcome everybody to the post-budget 2026 webinar, where we will speak about the budget proposal of setting up of content creator labs in schools and colleges across India. Hi, I'm Chaitanya Chinchinikar, your moderator for the session. I'm the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Whistling Woods, and I'm also a member of the Governing Council of IICT. Joining me today are several industry experts and contributors to this initiative. And over the next 90 minutes, we will take you through key elements of this proposal. In our session, we will talk about the importance of the media and entertainment industry in India and globally, what's its potential, and how this initiative will propel India to fulfill its ambitions of taking its media and entertainment industry to new heights, both in India and globally. We will also speak about how this initiative will help students and parents understand and achieve their latent dreams and goals about careers in the creative and performing arts industry, as well as how foundational education in creative and performing arts in high school will make them a well-rounded 12th grader or well-rounded high school pass out. To start things off, I would like to welcome Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, Shri Sanjay Jajuji, for his keynote. Sanjay ji, you're on mute.
Yeah, and am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Chaitanya, and a very warm good morning to each one of the participants of this post-budget webinar on Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, fulfilling the aspirations of people. And we are in the education skills and the ABGC part of the post the webinar and the breakout session. Very happy to have a large number of panelists. I'm also informed that a large number of students, academic personalities, and other stakeholders from the industry have also joined this post-budget webinar. And as you already heard the Honorable Prime Minister, these budget webinars are a very, very important step in ensuring that the announcements made during the budget are not just fulfilled, but at the same time, they are also drafted in consultation with the stakeholders from the industry, in consultation with all the essential stakeholders, that what we do is in line with the demands of the economy, demands of the market. So, very happy to see each one of you. I have been personally connected with all of you over the last 2 years, and very happy to see that the dream that all of you laid for the ABGC sector and its growth is now truly coming to its fruition. Friends, all of you are aware that the ABGC sector has been globally expanding very, very rapidly. But unfortunately, India's share in the global market still remains below 1%. In fact, this is despite the fact that we have a strong talent base. Over 3,900 studios have been working on various international projects. And all this goes to show that there is a need for us to build a very strong domestic pipeline of skilled, creative professionals. At the same time, also work on creating original intellectual property. Friends, the announcement made in the budget on creating content creator labs represents a very important policy continuum flowing from the ABGC task force recommendations. Many of you were part of the ABGC task force as well. And these recommendations came close to 4 years back in 2022. And all of you are aware that the establishment of the National Center of Excellence for ABGC XR All of us now very popularly call this as the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies. The first campus of it has already started to function from the Pedagogue NFTC office, and I'm sure in few years we'll have the full-fledged campus coming up in the Film City, Goregaon in Mumbai. At the same time, many other regional campuses across the country. And all this shows the commitment of the government for strengthening the orange economy ecosystem in our country. Friends, from an implementation perspective, the program emphasizes complete policy convergence in line with the national education policy. All of you are aware that national education policy focuses on multidisciplinary education, design thinking, and creative learning. I'm sure this particular initiative, this particular announcement will also align with the existing innovation ecosystems that we have, like the Atal Tinkering Labs, EM Free Schools, and other digital learning platforms. Thereby, it will help us optimize the use of existing infrastructure while expanding opportunities in creative technologies. The initiative also seeks to integrate ABGC-oriented learning pathways within school and higher education curriculum with clearly defined grade-wise learning outcomes, portfolio-based assessment models, and structured progression pathways into advanced skilling and industry engagement. Friends, the key implementation priority will be the identification of suitable secondary schools and higher educational institutions for establishing PCLs in consultation with the state governments, education boards, universities, and each one of you, taking into account the entire gamut of factors like the existing digital infrastructure, availability of space, institutional readiness, and also regional balance. In parallel, the initiative will also focus on development of structured academic curriculum and learning modules in ABGC domains. And all this will obviously be aligned with the principles of the new education policy. This will include grade-wise learning outcomes, modular course structures, portfolio-based assessment models, and integration with multidisciplinary learning frameworks, ensuring that students receive both creative and technical exposure to animation, gaming, VFX, and digital storytelling. Friends, the key implementation pillar will be faculty capacity development, including the national train the trainer programs, certification frameworks, and industry supported training modules to address the current shortage of faculty with hands-on ABTC experience. The program design also envisages standardized CCL infrastructure. That's where possibly today's webinar should help us understand more about it, which would include the hardware, the software licensing, digital tools. All this will get coordinated through IICT, but we'll need to know more about it so that we are able to ensure not just cost efficiency, but at the same time bring in quality assurance and technological relevance across the participating institution. And the rollout will follow obviously a phased implementation strategy, beginning with pilot deployment in select institutions, followed by a scale-up based on institutional readiness, state participation, and ecosystem feedback. Private sector participation obviously will be critical for the success of the initiative. Industry partners will play a lead role in this whole endeavor. And as we have been doing last 2 years, we're trying to lay a lot of emphasis on industry involvement with the World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit waves happening to a framework completely developed and supported by the industry. The Indian Institute of Creative Technology is developing as a one of its kind institution completely with industry support. I'm sure all the industry partners will ensure that you not just contribute to curriculum inputs, but at the same time you are able to provide them access to professional tools, mentorships, obviously, internships, providing them live projects and incubation support. And all this will ensure that what we do, train the students, is completely aligned with market requirements. Friends, greater industry engagement in all matters of implementation have been the top priority of the Honorable Prime Minister. And I'm pretty certain that today's webinar will allow us to look at all those aspects. It will help us accelerate intellectual property creation. It will also help us accelerate the startup formations through the REMIX program that we have. It will also help us strengthen India's position in the global AVGC sweepstakes. The Content Creator Lab initiative would also have, importantly, regional inclusion dimension, as distributed creative infrastructure across schools and colleges will enable participation from tier 2 and tier 3 and emerging creative clusters, which will support balanced regional development. So I'm sure that coordinated action across education systems, industry stakeholders, and policy institutions, this particular budget announcement will have the potential to build a robust national ecosystem for digital content creation, creative entrepreneurship, and globally competitive media innovation. And all this will contribute to India's emergence as a leading creative economy in the years ahead. Once again, I'd like to welcome each one of you to this important consultation post-budget webinar. And I am pretty certain the deliberations, the suggestions, and the ideas that come out through this brainstorming process will not just help us devise better policy, but it also help us in creating a solid implementation rubric which will help us take this segment to greater heights. Thank you very much. I'm all ears, all ready to learn from each one of you. Thank you.
Um, Thank you so much, Sanjay ji, for this lovely keynote. Um, we'd now like to move ahead with the first part of this breakout session. Um, Before we get down to having a conversation with our panelists, what I'd like to do is take you through a very short overview presentation about this initiative and various aspects of it. Okay, my screen is visible, right? Okay. Okay, so hi, I'm Chaitanya, as mentioned again, VP and CTO of Whistling Woods International and member of the Governing Council of IICT. The Secretary, sir, mentioned about how media and entertainment as an industry is very critical, and I want to start out with just a couple of slides about the media and entertainment industry. Um, it is one of the biggest contributor industries for Viksit Bharat 2047. Without doubt, this is going to add great value to India as a whole as we run towards our goal of Viksit Bharat 2047. It is a massive potential for building out global businesses in the media and entertainment content space. Um, Content doesn't see boundaries. Content traverses across the world, and through content, the world is really able to see and understand India better. The global media and entertainment industry is approximately $2.9 trillion. The Indian M&E industry is only about $30 billion. So about just about 1% of the global industry. So there is great potential for growth, especially in verticals like video gaming, animation, live entertainment, in addition to the existing films and OTT and radio and other industries. So there's a massive potential for the M&A industry to go global. India is replete with talent, whether it's content creators on YouTube or on Instagram or films or TV or writers or directors. We're replete with talent and we have a rich narrative storytelling tradition which goes thousands of years. What we need is we need to take this talent and channelize it through proper education, training, and give them opportunities to excel, which is what this initiative will really start. The media and entertainment industry within itself actually contains many verticals, each of which are massive, large in size, and we consume all of them. So there's cinema or filmed entertainment, there's OTT, digital content, there's television, radio, animation, video games, comics, music, events and live media, advertising, journalism, sports and esports. And oftentimes it is a combination of these industries that come together in order to create wholesome, immersive, and entertaining experiences for the world. And once we focus on the fundamentals, on the foundational education of each of these industries put together, it will really enable students to widen their perspective about the industry as a whole. Now, when we talk about foundational education in creative arts, what do we mean? Right? So, the goal of this is essentially to nurture creative thinking, problem solving, and cultural awareness, to inculcate a foundational understanding of creativity, to keep the natural creative spark alive in each student. Every student, all of us are born creative. There is an element in us which wants to express ourselves. We are making sure that we are giving channel to that spark and we're able to keep that creative spark alive in each student. It will also help understand the growing importance of creativity, culture, media, design, and innovation as real career and economic opportunities. So these are not just subjects that you learn because you have to. These are real pathways to go ahead and build great careers in. And the last is to build creative threads into existing subjects. So sciences, languages, social studies. We talk about scientific temper in school, which is very important. But what is equally important is creative temper. How do you help students understand what is creative thinking, how creativity operates, and how creativity allows you to benefit across all your education, not just in the so-called creative industries, right? But in all industries. Now, why is this so critical at this point? In the age of AI, human skills are needed for creative thinking, critical thinking, narrative thinking, design thinking. We have to inculcate the seed of this, the origin of this into our high school education. Our pre-NEP 2020 schooling focused heavily on science, maths, languages, and social studies. Now, while it was great for those subjects, what it did was it restricted completeness of education and it limited higher education pathways because students never really understood or learned about in a structured manner foundational education in creative and performing arts. So it restricted careers to pathways in content creation, media and entertainment, and sports. The NEP 2020 has created the structure to resolve this limitation. Now, this initiative will become the next step towards fulfillment of the NEP. It will actually create the curriculum and the faculty for the same. The structure is in place. Now, we want to make sure that we fill up that structure with good quality curriculum and excellent faculty. This initiative will also play a role in creating new academic educational pathways. We have two educational pathways already. One is on the more on the theoretical side, where there is information analysis, which leads to understanding and explanation. Then we added the skilling pathway a few years ago, which talks about demonstration and training, which leads to practice, which leads to execution. What this initiative will add is two more pathways. It will add the creative pathway, where you have creative thinking, innovation, the new thought, the new idea, and the design pathway, which is starts off with design thinking, which leads to innovation, to solutions, and to new workflows. And those are the new workflows that lead to patents. Now, what is the operating framework of foundational education, creative and performing arts, of which the content creator labs are a big part? And how is it aligned to the national education policy? So, as Secretary Sir mentioned, it is a graded approach starting from sixth to go to 12th. We have into 6 to 8, we have basic concepts of creativity, storytelling, narratology. Then we move on to tools and workflow competence, more in the ninth and 10th standard, where we allow and enable and empower students to take the basic concepts they have learned and then understand what are the tools and workflows in order to bring those out to the people. And in 11th and 12th, where we start to look at understanding complex theory of narratology, to start to get students to work together in teams for project execution, as well as applications of tools and workflows. Now, this is the slide that I really want everybody to pay a lot of attention on, because this allows and this helps you understand what is the real kind of output of this policy, of this initiative. So it allows students to explore creative career pathways, to get exposure to careers like film, TV, and OTT content, animation and visual effects, video gaming and esports, music, acting, voice acting, theater, graphic design, fashion and lifestyle design, advertising, branding, writing, storytelling, publishing. These are just some of the careers that students will get exposure to. On the digital and tech enabled opportunities, you have, work in future industries like AI based content creation, AR, virtual reality, immersive media, UI UX design, app and digital product design, 3D design, as well as virtual production, YouTube, the creator economy, podcasting and digital media. And the third, that possibly the most important pillar, is students get exposure to their own art and culture. They understand regional storytelling, they understand regional folk art, music. It allows them to understand that how is cultural tourism planned, how our festivals can be creatively built into the larger tourism framework, as well as understanding handicrafts and traditional design industries. So this is the really wide frame of opportunities that this initiative will open up to our students. A couple of slides about IICT, which is the institution that will be in charge and responsible of rolling this initiative out. So IICT was set up, as you can see, in 18th of September 2024. The Honorable PM tweeted about the setting up of the National Center of Excellence for Animation, Visual Effects, Gaming, Comics, and Extended Reality, which is now become the IICT. It is. He also mentioned it in his Create in India Man Ki Baat a few weeks later. The IICT will support content creation labs implementation through four key pillars. So there's lab design framework, there is curriculum modules for schools and colleges, there is train the trainer programs, and there's industry mentorship. Now, each of these are areas that our panelists will speak about today, as well as we have been doing workshops and getting additional inputs from a lot of industry professionals and academics, and from the Atal Innovation Mission team, to help us make sure that this is executed appropriately. As we mentioned, this is a phased rollout. So there's a pilot rollout planned in a few schools and colleges. There's a communication campaign for parents and students. There's training of educators, and there's deployment of digital platform. Now, this phase is possibly the most important phase, because not only will this kickstart this initiative, but it will also help us to get great amount of feedback and data back from the industry to make sure that phase 2 and 3 go off really well. Phase 2 is where we expand to additional institution and we widen the training of teachers. Phase 3 is where we look at saturation coverage nationwide and start to link it to higher education, HEI. So that was the few slides about the initiative. Now let's get to the panel discussion. Before we get to the panel discussion, I want to introduce our panelists. So we have Mr. Ashish Kulkarni, founder of Punaryu Ghat Vision, founder director IICT. There's Mr. Rajan Navani, chairman of the Jetline Group, Jet Synthesis, one of India's biggest gaming publishers, video game publishers, founding director of IICT as well. Ms. Shrija A, she's economic advisor, Department of School Education and Literacy. Ms. Sonam Bhagat, who's founder of Vigor News Media, and Mr. Veer Singh, student of IICT. Now that we've seen the overview, let's start with questions to our panelists. So let's start with Ashish Kulkarni for his opening comments. Ashish has been a pioneer of Indian AVGCXR for the last 30 years, including coining the abbreviation itself, as well as working on several national and state policy initiatives. Ashish, for years we have spoken about the sheer power of Bharat stories, its centuries of law of a strong narrative storytelling tradition, and how we've not yet been able to fully build a global, powerful narrative economy around it. How do you think this policy takes, this initiative takes steps towards that lofty goal? Ashish?
Uh, Thank you, Chaitanya. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for setting this up. Uh, it's an amazing time for animation, gaming, visual effects, comics, and extended reality as an industry. The thing is that we all know that we had the foundational skills that actually got missing as we became independent. And before that, there were the history of India had kings, and kings used to commission the creative ecosystem. And these kingdoms then got converted into the government. We actually had a education policy which actually had a lot of focus towards the industrial development and the literacy as India required at that point in time. But rightly so in NEP, as we got uh, a complete creative arts, performing arts, and design and sports education rolling out from sixth grade to the 12th grade as an opportunity. This is something which is a foundational skill that we need to establish and train it in the right way. Many people thought that we would teach animation, visual effects, extended reality into the schools, and that's obviously not possible as you don't teach engineering, medical, and law into the school itself. You create a pathway like physics, chemistry, mathematics to go to engineering, physics, chemistry, biology to go to medical, commerce pathways, and others. The creative design and storytelling pathways were missing. And this content creation labs are going to be strengthening that whole, uh, ec- uh, the whole foundational ecosystem of implementation of NEP into the schools and into the higher education institutions. As I say, what has this done to our industry today in India? With Honorable Prime Minister announcing it, and also an follow up with Honorable Finance Minister and our Honorable Minister and Secretary working on it to actually give it a proper shape and a consolidation. The schools are going to impart the foundational skills that are required for making a pathway to do a creative arts, performing arts, design, and sports ecosystem. And this is going to be building the bottom of the pyramid with a complete ecosystem that is required for people to excel in the global arenas. As I say, individually, artists and players have done well, and they have actually done well as teams also in India. But as far as we are concerned, we are not been able to build a global brand in media and entertainment so far. Although our film industry is 117 years old. What we are going to do with this is actually create that foundational skills in a very strong way. And this is brought into consideration with trainer program and the right kind of curriculum that IACT would give to the school education and the higher education both. This will bring about the hygiene, dignity, and also the credibility to the creative careers. As you know, any member in the family, if said that I want to become a dancer, animator, actor, or singer, they were asked to do engineering, medical first, and then they said, okay, you do it as an extracurricular activities, don't waste your time. Today is the time that we actually empower them to make creative careers. And today, design is required all over. As I actually want to bring to the attention of all the viewers today that uh, when we were going to schools, we used to read books and newspapers. Then came an era that we were reading it on Kindle and on the laptop and desktops. Today, everybody wants to watch videos. and it's become a digital content ecosystem which has become a different world, parallel to our present world that we live into. For anything that you want to know, you pick up your phone or your laptop and you go and you search for videos which will engage you and tell you what this particular subject is all about. Even as you're looking at the news, it's all seen in and consumed in terms of the the videos. And that's why a good quality video, well researched videos to be put into the ecosystem of digital content economy is very important. And that's where the orange economy is booming right now. And rightfully so, India is taking these steps to build this from ground zero. And we will not only look at building it from the top in the universities, but also look at building it step by step as you go from the schools to the universities and create this pathway and bring dignity as well as credibility to the careers that are going to be rolling out. More importantly, our industry brings a lot of entrepreneurs and freelancers as well, because our industry, when you want to make a film, everybody is owning the skills and they are into the vicinity. They are called to actually contribute with their skill, and may it be production, may it be costume design, may it be animation, may it be visual effects, editing. Everybody comes on a contract and delivers the project. That's a very unique module. And now all the states are actually also investing into this infrastructure development through the policy. And this is going to actually create storytellers from all over the world, about storytellers from all over India, telling their stories to the global audience. And we will be able to actually build our cultural narrative and also create our heritage narrative in a much better way with a complete ecosystem that is developing. So I think this is one of the biggest steps that has happened in the history of uh, education ecosystem in India. NEP was a path-breaking thing, but what is now happening with Utter Twinkling Labs as well as content creator creation labs is the next big thing that you're going to see being rolled out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashish. That was highly enlightening and encouraging. Now let's come to Rajan Navani, one of India's leading professionals in the video gaming industry. Rajan, as we know, video gaming is one of the biggest industries globally. Further, the skills needed to succeed in the industry are vast and varied. Please, could you speak about those as well as how introduction of foundational education in media and entertainment in high school, which the content creator labs in conjunction with the academic curriculum for the same will do, will enable a well-rounded 12th grader?
Thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya. Let me begin first by, congratulating the government, the Honorable Prime Minister, MIV, our Honorable Secretary who's here, for really bringing this program in such a interactive format, to audiences around India and the world. I think it's very important that we are able to understand the potential of these new sectors that are not only going to shape, I think, the future of the young people of India, but also the future of what India can do on a global stage. Video gaming, as you said, Chaitanya, today is actually not very well understood around the world. It is one of the largest entertainment industries, larger than the music and film combined, and also very deeply connected to passions of young people. We often find three young people coming together to create an indie studio, to create an example of putting their creativity out there that can engage many others. And therefore, I think the biggest advantage of the video gaming industry is that it is also one of the most interdisciplinary. A successful game brings together storytelling, design, you need psychology, you need mathematics, you need coding, and today you need music, art, increasing technologies like AI and immersive media. So the capabilities that power this industry today and will power in the long term are far broader than I think what most people assume. And that is why I believe that the introduction of this foundational media and entertainment education at the high school level with the content creator labs is such an important step, because we need to be able to see how students can get exposed to creative thinking, technical building blocks of a digital economy early in their life, because all said and done, the digital economy in India is slated to hit $1 trillion and will continue to be a big driver of India's growth. And a student who kind of experiments with animation, game design, storytelling at a school level, I don't think is only learning a tool, but they are learning how they can combine their creativity with technology, how to think in systems, how to collaborate across disciplines. And I think all of that together, is such an important part of creating a creatively confident and industry-aware 12th grader. Since you mentioned 12th grade, Chaitanya, that's a very critical point everywhere in the world, right? Because if you're an 18-year-old, you're trying to see what's the career area you're going to move in. First time you start to assess what are my strengths, and what are the areas that I should be able to build on. So having built this foundational building block, I think once they understand how to take ideas and move them from concept to creation, it could be a game, it could be an animated story, it could be an immersive digital experience, they carry with them this holistic skill set, analytical ability. Earlier days, we used to say you do engineering or you will do medicine. Today's innovation is happening at the interdisciplinary edge. You need to understand sensitivity, aesthetic sensitivity with digital fluency. And I think collaboration in a creative industry is probably the hardest, right? Can content creator labs actually help establish that, where you respect the work of other creative people, but also bring your own, and together actually drive the workforce of India to actually position ourselves as the most collaborative, which we truly as a country also stand for in the world, and bring out the best of the creative and digital worlds. So I think creating well-rounded digital creators, problem solvers in young people will be a big ability for us to do through an education pipeline. And I think that will be a biggest enabler, for the orange economy as we move ahead. Because at the end of the day, creative education at a school level is not just about producing artists, but it's about truly building a generation that will, bring the best of what is there in young minds. Because once a mind is expanded by a new idea, it can never return to its original dimension. And taking that into one step ahead at a time, I think the future of the orange economy will belong to countries that really unlock this capability. And if we can do that at a national level, we can do it through our schools, where students will learn all of this. I think we would probably be able to build the highest level of intellectual property, going forward. Having said that, I want to just touch upon 2 points, because I think how will this policy at its core unlock the potential of the video gaming industry? Just from a statistical point of view, India is one of the largest video gamer populations in the world, right? We have 520 million video gamers, but we are the smallest contributors to the content creation in video games, right? So we are large consumers, very small creators today as a country, and I think that's the big opportunity. We have built capabilities by servicing the global gaming value chain, but today is the time, I think, for us to upstream this capability gap, ensure that we can create, better IPs, and the entire full cycle of content creation, and position us very, very competitively on the global map when it comes to this. And I think starting from a school level, going to a college level, creating an ecosystem that will enable risk-taking through the right capital, I think will help us, create more job creators than job seekers, and also, become a big engine of economic growth for India. And the second point that I want to really also mention is that, video gaming is very interestingly linked to through esports to a Khelo India program, which our Honorable Prime Minister also talked about. The most competitive gamers today can participate in an Olympics of esports and actually win a medal for India. We have had, the Asian Games now, which is recognizing that many of these and the opportunities that esports opens up. Because esports not only creates great talent from sports and athletes through the reflexes and strategic decision making, etc., but also creators, as well as many others who are involved in the streaming ecosystem, in the content ecosystem, production, the commentators and the creative casters. So many opportunities get created through this industry. And I think as we look at the growth of video gaming, we must also, as India, see that we have a unique opportunity here to be at the forefront of esports in the world. Video gaming is a 50-year-old industry. India has come in, more so with the mobile ecosystem becoming bigger. But I think esports is a level playing area for everybody. And I just want to end with this point. The India's first esports world champion actually came from Nagpur, like many of our other sports. I think he had no content creator lab, and he found his own way. I think the question to this panel and to everyone is, how can our CCL program, now ensure that not only do we create the best products for the world economy, the best talent that will drive that, but also the best athletes that will position India, on the global map as we move forward. So really excited about what this Content Creator Labs program can deliver for the video gaming and esports industry, and really interlink all of the creativity as we move forward as a strong nation. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Rajan. That was very, very extensive. Now, from us industry folk, let's speak to somebody from the education establishment. Ms. Shrija A. She's Economic Advisor, Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Shrija ji, there is a key aspect and a key stakeholder of this initiative, which is absolutely critical for its success: the teacher. Faculty preparation for teaching of this curriculum created to be executed through the classroom and the content creator labs is exceptionally critical. How do you see the work needed towards teacher training for the same? And what steps do you think are needed to ensure that we have a healthy teacher body? Shrija ji?
Thank you, Mr. Chaitanya. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Secretary Sir and MIB for organizing this webinar and inviting Ministry of Education. So you have given us an overview of how you will be creating this content creator labs in our schools and colleges. As has been said earlier, also it's a sunrise industry, and so far we didn't have any structured education system for in this sector. So right now our focus is on making our curriculum more structured and more streamlined. So in this background, I will be replying to your query. So the budget has also rightly we need to tap the talent very early, and in this regard, the union budget has announced creation of content creator labs, and some around 15,000 secondary schools are to be covered in the first phase, and 500 colleges. So, as you said in the by the earlier speakers, that you have already identified some schools where you are going to be doing it in a pilot mode. And our Prime Minister had also emphasized on moving out to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. So here we would request that when we are moving out to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, we choose the regional medium of dissemination of this content so that you get more children to participate. Basically, AVGC is a creative subject. It is exploring the creative potential in a student. So as we move to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the regional language or the mother tongue will be more easy for the child to express themselves. And as has been emphasized through NEP, that from this year onwards, from class 6 onwards, we are introducing skilling as a subject. And AVGC has also been portrayed here as a skill subject. So in this regard, as the Ministry of Education is developing a curriculum for class 6 to class 8, skilling will be basically an exposure subject, and there it should be that this AVGC is also included in the curriculum, wherein the children get a basic exposure to each of these domains. Now, each animation, visual communication, graphics, comics, each of it is in itself a domain, and the child gets a exposure to each of these domains during the class 6 to 8 as a theory subject, and from class 9 to 12 it is introduced as a separate skilling subject. So here, as is being proposed, we have been trying to locate it in the PM Shri schools, KVs, NVS, and where there are ATL labs. So in this regard, we would like to say that as it's a sunrise industry, we agree that there are no teachers in sufficient numbers, and in very limited numbers, we have any trainers left in our schools. So when we are going for this, identifying these 15,000 schools, we should ensure that there are both forward and backward linkages with the media and entertainment industry. That is, when we choose a school, there should be some industry or institute from where we can bring in the trainers to do the training of trainers and the schools. Plus, there should be some higher education institutes close by. So the children who pass out after class 9 and 12 in this AVGC courses can pursue higher education. So that line of the career path is defined. So the schools which we choose should facilitate the child in choosing that career path. Then once the children pass out of these schools, they should also be able to pursue their higher education. And for that, we need to give them the right career counseling at the time of when they are choosing these courses. Then in addition, the schools should also have reliable electricity and broadband connectivity to ensure that these content creator labs are functioning. Now, adult tinkering labs we are choosing plus, and there we are trying to set up the content creator labs, but the basic, even we are moving to the tier 2 or tier 3 cities, continuous presence of electricity and broadband connectivity is essential for the content creator labs to be functioning. Then industry involvement is very essential for training of trainers, both at the school and the higher education level. And for hands-on training of the students at the secondary level, the students should have an option of taking up an internship course with the nearby industry. And at the higher education level, they should be able to go for apprenticeship in the industries that are close by. And in NCRT, we have the PSS Central Institute of Vocational Education, and which is at Bhopal. And this is the institute which frames our curriculum for in skill education. So our Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, which is making the curriculum, I believe must be doing it in collaboration with the Central Institute of Vocational Education, NCRT, while developing courses curriculum for class 6 to 8 and class 9 to 12. And then the certification and accreditation of the skill courses also need to be taken up with the NSQF so that the child can get those credits while going for higher education. And it should not be restricted only as a science subject. The AVGC skills courses should be kept open for children from all streams, irrespective of their humanities or science or commerce. And once this curriculum is clear, and once IICT gives a specification of what should be the specifications that should go into the content creator labs at the ATL or ICT labs in the schools, then the training of trainers can be undertaken by the industry. Because once the curriculum as well as the labs setup is clear, then the industry will be clear to give up to what level of training should be given to the trainers in the school. So accordingly, the industry can take up the training part of it. And we have a huge demand of 2 million skilled professionals by 2030. So this government initiative is only right now restricted to the government schools. And we request that if the industry, media and entertainment industry can, I hope there is a test that media and entertainment creative aptitude test is being conducted to check the creative potential in children. So if these kind of tests, aptitude tests are kept open on the MyGov platform, or then the private school boards can also, their children who has the potential can also participate in these aptitude, and the industry can then train them in the domains that they are interested, so that we are getting a large pool of skilled professionals, both from the government as well as the private schools. And this is again a rapidly growing rapidly evolving sector. That is, the technology here keeps on changing. So we, at the higher education level, the institute should have some collaboration with the international universities also to facilitate the children who are pursuing these courses to go for some summer internship courses in those countries, so that they keep themselves abreast of the latest developments in this field. So, and when we are choosing our schools, apart from ATL, if the school has some good ICT labs where the content creator labs can be set up, then that also can be considered. So with these few words, right now, I would like to wind up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Srijaji. Now let's turn to Sonam Bhagat, founder of a startup called Vigor News Media, currently being incubated at IICT. Vigor is a hyperlocal news platform that enables citizen creators from smaller towns to bring their local stories to the national audiences. Sonam, as has been mentioned a couple of times, one of the big challenges to the success of this policy is to make sure that it is not restricted to cities, but it is spread across the entire country, especially in what you would call B towns or tier two, tier three cities. So, given that your startup really focuses on those voices, what would you want to say would be the success of the rollout of this policy?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity given to us, Chaitanya ji. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah.
So, India's media and entertainment sector has always had opportunities being historically concentrated in a few cities. Nearly 75% of India's AVGC and post production infrastructure sits in just four cities: Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, and Chennai. But what has changed over the last few years is where the audience and talent are coming from. Today, nearly 60% of India's video gaming and creator economy users come from tier two and tier three cities. So the real issue is not lack of talent. The issue is access to training, access to tools, and access to real career opportunities. The policy rollout proposes a hub and spoke structure, and which is a great starting point. So students don't have to migrate to learn, as I can hear from the other panelists as well. The next step is definitely capability development. Students need opportunities to learn these skills in a flexible way, starting maybe with basic learning online, and then they can gain hands-on exposure in studios and labs through institutions like IICT and its partners. The third piece, which I believe is extremely critical, is work. If students learn these skills but cannot find jobs or gigs, they won't sustain. For many students and parents today, well-paying job opportunities in animation, visual effects, video gaming, comics, immersive media still feel unclear. So at Vigor News, we are working at this at a possible scale at whatever we can, supporting creators in smaller towns who began by sharing hyperlocal stories on their phones are now producing short form videos, reels, 360 visuals, visual explainers that reach national audiences, while also we are paying them for their content upfront. For example, one of our creators from Khargon in Madhya Pradesh used to share updates about local culture, farmer issues, community events only with his Instagram and WhatsApp circles. With better storytelling tools and visual formats and training on our platform, his content now reaches audiences across the country, looks far more credible and professional. So what he needed was not talent. He needed tools, training, and visibility, and getting paid for his content so that he continues creating great hyperlocal content sustainably. So to sum it up, if we combine training and career vision, this policy can truly help build a national creative workforce to our
Okay,
minds.
great. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Sonam. Now let's come to Veer. Veer Singh is a student of IICT studying a diploma in animation. So, Veer, one of the key success factors of this initiative is the ownership and adoption of the same by parents. It's super critical that we understand that parents need to be convinced that this is a highly viable and as mainstream of an education as possible. So, given that setup, how do you look at, I mean, if you had to convince your parents, or say if you had to convince the parents of your housing society or your locality make them aware of the positive of this policy, what would you do?
So thank you for the question, Chaitanya sir, and good afternoon, good morning to everyone who is present here. After listening to this question, I actually don't have to imagine this situation because I actually lived it. When I told my parents that I wanted to pursue animation and I wanted to become an animator, they were a little hesitant at first. Honestly, I understand it why. In many Indian families, when a child chooses a creative field, the first concern is that how is always like a stability and future opportunity. How can we create like in this field? So if I have to create a awareness in my housing society or locality, I would think like that they are like my own parents because from what I have seen like from my experience from my parents is that uh, I can't tell them that don't worry because they actually worry about it. And what really build trust is like they have to see things for themselves. The first thing I would like to do is like I will invite them to visit IICT because when they walk into the campus and see the infrastructure, the labs and the software children are working on, learning, and see the type of projects they are creating, it changes something visually because there is a perspective like it's like a hobby and which we need to break it. We need to break like it's like a real skill building and learning. And I want to also emphasize on the professors that are mentoring us. They are like real mentors come directly from the animation, VFX, gaming, and XR industry. And when families realize that their children are learning from actually professionals who are working in the industry, it builds a lot of trust and confidence in them. And of course, the biggest question in every family is that about a future. The AVGC sector, animation, gaming, and comics is growing rapidly not only in India but worldwide. With this rising of film, OTT platforms, gaming, and digital content, the demand of skilled artists is increasing every year. And what makes this really exciting for me and others children's also like it not only offers careers in studio or production houses, it also allows creator to build their own stories, create their own IPs, and even start their own studios and creative companies. From my personal experience, once my parents understood the quality of education, the guidance from industry mentors and the opportunity in this field, that their hesitation slowly turned into support. And for me personally, and every student who is learning here, that support from the family can make a huge difference in our journeys. So I think this policy will go in that direction, and we students will like make very all opportunities in this field. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Veer. That was fantastic. Now let's get back to the panel on their final thoughts or a closing comment. So please do try and summarize your thoughts in about a minute each. Let's go in the same order that we went. So Ashish, why don't you go first?
I think it's kind of creating a level playing field for all the creative fraternity and the design fraternity, and I think it's a big learning curve for most of resetting of education in our country, and the support that is coming directly from the central government and the state governments is unprecedented. I think this is going to be a big turning point for India to establish itself as the leader in orange economy and also contribution in the creative content ecosystem. And I would like to personally thank Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, and Honorable Secretary for listening to the industry and working closely to make this happen. And I think we are very fortunate in this country right now that this kind of effort is happening to make equal opportunities for all stakeholders. And I have no doubt that as I'm making policy in Northeast and many other states, the creative content in AVGC XR would come from all the states in India, and you will be able to see Indian folk traditional art forms and even the music art forms turn into different forms of storytelling in animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics ecosystem. And you will be able to experience them into video games and extended reality as well. So you don't be surprised if you get Kerala mural art or Tanjore art or even Patachitra coming into animation very cool and becoming a style of India. Like my my only wish is that like Japan has a manga and anime, India will have probably 8 to 10 different styles established globally in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Satyavachan. Rajan. So, Rajan, one thing that I wanted to kind of touch upon earlier for you as well, and if you could talk about here, is the is to understand the difference or the kind of the link between uh, video game making, video game publishing, and that part, as well as being a gamer yourself as an individual. So if you could just talk about that and just close up for a minute.
No, absolutely. I think all the three areas you talked about are very distinct industries by itself and extremely large. Again, ones which require tremendous amount of capabilities and skills which are different from each other. When you
Correct.
come to game development, as we have already talked about, the number of skill sets that are required where you need to really train extensively to be the best in the world or to be world class is extremely important, whether it's art, it's animation, whether it's engineering, it's design, it's economy, and each of these provide an opportunity to build livelihoods which are very, very deep and extensive today. The second, when you look at publishing, I think it's a very interesting opportunity that India has because, as I said, not only are we the largest consumers of gaming content, but it's the global publishers that are, largely looking at their games, global games, really commanding 93% of India's, gaming market. Whereas the opportunity is now for, publishers from India, not only to build for India, but for the world. Companies like ours are now publishing globally. We are acquiring assets globally and, ensuring that the time for India now to become global with IP ownership and publishing is a very big opportunity. And, coming to the third piece, which is gamer. I mean, as I said, the recognition you get, the livelihoods you can make both as playing games and then becoming the best influencers of the game because others come to watch you play and learn from you as creators. And we've built some of the largest creator ecosystems here, and not only from the larger cities as someone mentioned, but tier 2, tier 3 India. A lot of individuals are deriving their livelihoods by just being great creators when it comes to video gaming and esports from there. But many others are also bringing in elements of other entertainment, music, and others to become complete wholesome creators and therefore influencers, because today the ones who are really spending money and giving them livelihoods are brands, because they don't know how to reach audiences or these fan communities of these wonderful creators that engage young people on their passions. So, having said that, I think I'll just end with this, Chaitanya, that, never in the history, I think, of mankind, has a 1.4 billion people democratically elected country transformed itself from a developing country to a developed country. And that too anchored with a demography of young people who are just waiting to unleash their skills and capabilities, to the world and to India. And this, the Content Creator Labs is really touching upon something that has always been deep within people. AI will capture whatever there is in data, but beyond that data, that inner human creativity, unlocking that, because I think that's going to be a big differentiator over the next 2 decades as we move towards a Viksit Bharat. And I think this initiative, in my mind, will only grow and scale. More schools, more young people, and as we unlock that, I think truly excited about what India can do, both in India and for the world. So again, thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Rajan. Shrija ma'am, what we'd like to have you close with for a minute is what has been your experience or the ministry's experience when it comes to parents and their adoption of newer areas of education? And if you could just talk for a second about, what that experience has been and how we can learn from it.
Yeah, as has been said by the earlier speakers also, that earlier the trend was for going for science stream and professional courses. That trend is still live as we move to the interior cities. So as I had said in my earlier feedback, that when we are introducing the course at the secondary level as a separate vocational subject, we need to tell the children about the career path, both to the child as well as the parent, that this is the career path, that if you take this skill course, you can go forward. So that would help the parents in taking a call in sending their children for those skill courses, because now skilling is going to be introduced as a separate subject in our schools, and not that the weak learners are sent for some vocational subject. All children should pass out class 12 with one essential skill. So that is as per NEP 2020, that is the new perspective that is coming into schooling. So parents will also be taken along on those lines. So we hope for a positive feedback from the parents.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sonam, you briefly spoke about a creator from a tier two or tier three city who has succeeded. A quick update on, if you could just summarize for a minute on, um, where do you see is like, what would be the delta between where they are right now and where they can be with a little bit of foundational education in creative and performing arts that they get in high school?
Sure. Thank you, Chetanji. Post this rollout, I think India can move, like Rajan sir also said, from a few urban creative hubs to a truly national creative economy. I will say it again, talent exists along across the country, hyper locally, regionally, in small towns and villages. What this policy can do is provide the tools, the training, and the visibility that can allow young creators to turn their skills into real careers and opportunities. And we at the news, information, and journalism side are very excited for this format of storytelling capability that will come from the very, very small towns and villages furthermore. So more coming up on those small town hub creators, I'm hoping.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sonam. Veer, to wrap it up, you have a minute. What would you see an ideal rollout of this policy look like?
First, I would like to begin my expressing my gratitude to ICT for giving this opportunity to represent students. I feel very proud to be a part of ICT, and that truly connects creativity and technology. That gives students a platform to explore both. As students, we feel inspired not only to learn, but also to create, innovate, and contribute to India's growing creative economy. From my personal experience, I would genuinely recommend ICT to my friends and family who wants to pursue creative creative technology or creative field, because here students are encouraged to create, learn, and experimentally boldly and truly. And I'm very excited to see how India continues to grow as a global hub for animation, gaming, and creative storytelling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's now move to a second set of speakers. We have a few industry experts who have joined in and would be talking for a couple of minutes each on some of these areas. So before we go ahead, let me just quickly do an introduction. Sorry. Yeah. So quick introduction to our industry experts. So there's Mr. Biren Ghosh, founder of Astra Studios, member of the governing council of IICT. There's Munjal Shroff, founder Graffiti Studios, member of the governing council of IICT. Manvendra Shukul, CEO of Lakshya Digital, founder director IICT. Ms. Preeti Vyas, president of Mythic. Ms. Mala Sharma, global VP, student product and marketing for Adobe. Ms. Padma S., Young Representative. She's a Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue representative. And Mr. Rudra Vyas, also Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue representative. And lastly, we have Mr. Vishwas Deoskar, who's CEO of IICT. So let me stop sharing this. And okay, so let's start with Mala. So Mala, as a global VP, student product and marketing of a global organization like Adobe with a global footprint, you've seen fresh high school graduates from all over the world. So what can we learn from what other countries who have successfully done this incorporation of foundational education in media and entertainment into their high school education? What can we learn from those countries?
Absolutely. First, it's an honor to be here. This is such an important dialogue, so timely. And for the parents and students who are with us and listening in, I work for Adobe. The mission of the company is to enable everyone to create and bring their stories to life. So it's awesome to be here and share my thoughts. Just as background, Adobe has been building software for professionals in the AVGC sector for over 40 years. Every movie, including the very popular Dhurandhar that was recently in India, and Dhurandhar 2 coming around the corner, posters, magazines, or animations has been touched by an Adobe product, whether it's Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, Illustrator. Content creation and consumption, as we heard since this morning's talk, is exploding. But what's actually going on, it's just the beginning. People expect personalized experiences, and technology and learning programs can prepare students for the future of this experience. In fact, given the various comments from the panelists today about cultural and India's Bharat stories, I wanted to share that at the AI Summit that just concluded a couple of weeks back, Adobe commissioned 5 AI films with creators in India that told the stories, folklore of India using Indian art. And they're absolutely beautiful. They're under 2 minutes. I'd encourage you to have a look at them. But it really proved the power, Chaitanya, of technology and the Indian storytelling talent, if you will. When you put those two things together, as Shrija also mentioned, provide access, great things happen. So what does that access look like in countries abroad? One of the first things that I find is very different, and I think is a lot of what you've discussed here today, is a program called CTE, Career and Technical Education. This is something students can start choosing for themselves in the United States when they're in high school. So it's really a specialized curriculum. It could be in science, technology, math, and arts. And it provides interested students information about these fields, both foundational and specialized learning. And the context is in a computer lab, and it's hands-on projects. There's another program, which I think the NSQF will enable even in India, which is called Advanced Placement. Advanced Placement is a program where a student can choose an AP course, Advanced Placement course, which is essentially college level learning, but you can do it in high school. So what a student gets by doing that is they get credits, and those credits can get applied for getting into, top colleges. They even get credits towards college fees, and it just prepares them for an actual career. It introduces them to the career while they're in school, and sort of builds their conviction that they want to proceed in that. So I do think that the comments that were made earlier on the panel about what the NSQF certification can provide, Ms. Srija, are, I think, in that same line that could be developed as an AP course. The third one, which I think is the most important, and the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister touched on this, is how do we give children real world experiences? And this is a program called conservatories. Conservatories are nothing but an intensive experience in high school, typically 11th and 12th grade, where a student can join this program. It's like an intensive performance focused training. Students work together in groups, they make films, it could be a video game, it could be music, animations, prototypes, build companies, solve real world problems. And this really teaches them what's ultimately required, what makes a successful career or not, which is skills like not just creativity, but collaboration. How do you communicate clearly? How do you get your idea across? Critical thinking, and of course, creativity. So those are the three things, Chaitanya, that I think are immediately relevant for these content creation labs that we're discussing in the context of India. I could not be more excited about the Honorable Prime Minister's emphasis in AVGC. This sector is already and going to be completely disrupted by artificial intelligence. And there could not be a more opportune time to set up these content creator labs in these 15,500 schools and colleges so students can experiment and disrupt the technology that exists and learn about what lies ahead. He
Thank you.
spoke about, yeah,
No,
just
no,
a couple
sorry,
more
carry on.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. He spoke about the importance of collaboration between industry and education institutions, both higher education and K-12. And Adobe, the company I represent, is really honored to have an MOU with IICT. This is obviously the body that's bringing all of this to life. Our ongoing work with thousands of CBSE schools, PM Shri schools, and state schools across the country gives us the confidence that this is definitely a watershed moment for creativity in education. And we're committed to supporting India's vision and to bring this Vikshit Bharat vision to life that the Prime Minister have. I'm very proud that Adobe has committed to making all our professional software free only for students in India through colleges and schools, including certificates and training, faculty and teachers. There was a lot of conversation about train the trainers. We've committed to training 500,000 teachers and faculty. So I'm excited to partner with, with these various institutions and bring this vision to life. Thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to see these kids get prepared for their future careers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mala. That was fantastic. Next, let's come to Munjal. So, Munjal, you've been making animated content for decades now, including the most popular IP of Krish and Balti Boy, better known as KTB. You have also recently taken those IPs and undertaken a deep integration between Bharat's historical heroes and KTB to be released simultaneously on Netflix and Amazon, which is a really good thing. Um, Obviously, we need more and more such creators who'll be able to take our stories and tell them to a global audience in an engaging manner. How do you think this policy will ensure that? Munjal?
Thanks, Chaitanya. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I think this year's budget, obviously, very, very significant announcement because I think finally the creator economy is being recognized not just as entertainment, but as an emerging pillar of our knowledge economy. So, I think this also reflects very forward-looking thinking by the government, and also I think an acknowledgement that the current generation is today no longer just passively consuming media, but they also actively want to create it. So as co-founder of ICT, I can say that ICT is privileged to be tasked with such a massive project of national significance. And I think I would like for all of us to look at this in a very, very different context. I believe that, storytelling today is as critical as any other infrastructure. At least for me, storytelling is like national infrastructure. And I think this is what I would sort of want to talk about. So for decades, young people have grown up surrounded by films, animation, games, storytelling, but very few of them get the opportunity to understand how these worlds are actually created. And I think that's been, in many ways, one of the challenges within the Indian system of education. I know an NEP sort of now is meaning to address that. And I think this is where the opportunity is there for these labs to change this entire thing. So they will introduce students to the tools and thinking beyond and behind storytelling, filmmaking, animation, game design, and immersive media. And the language through which today's generation communicates is this very language, right? And it's a question of how do we make our children comfortable with that language at a very, very early stage, you know. And this initiative is not about technology or software, in fact, far from it. I think it's about creative confidence, you know, building that creative confidence amongst our young people. When a student learns to build a character, they learn empathy, right? They understand what goes into a character. When they design a game, they learn system thinking. When they learn how to tell a story, they learn how ideas travel. So these are the kind of capabilities that power the creative economy of the future. Globally, countries that lead in storytelling through cinema, animation, games also shape cultural influence. And they export characters, narratives, and worlds that travel way beyond their borders. I mean, if you think anime and Japan comes to our mind, you think Disney and Marvel and US comes to our mind, you think Squid Games, and obviously we have South Korea that comes to our mind. India has always been a civilization of stories. Our mythology, our folklore, history represents one of our richest narrative traditions in the world. But however, we have yet to claim our share of the global mind share, especially in the entertainment space. And I think the opportunity before us is to empower young creators to reinterpret these stories in the contemporary formats, whether it's animation, filmmaking, or interactive experience. I don't think that matters. I think it's about how do we start looking at these labs as gymnasiums. So in these labs, we have to help students build their competence as storytellers. It does not matter the medium they choose. And I think we have to use these labs as gymnasiums of storytelling. And I think this is one of the key factors that I'm going to put forth, that use these labs as gyms. This is where they get to flex and build their muscles of imagination. We have to inculcate a joy of storytelling. These have to be seen by children as a place to go and have fun. We have to fuel their passion for storytelling. I think that whole point is about how children can have fun. How can these crafts be a real joy and fuel a certain passion for them, for the passion for storytelling. I think imagine a student in our lab builds a short animated story, gets inspired by a local legend, or whether he's designing a game based on a historical episode. I mean, these are realities that can happen, right? And these early experiments potentially are seeds of tomorrow's original intellectual property. I think, you spoke like Krishna Baltipoy. I think Krishna Baltipoy started from a place of saying, let's have fun. Let's start looking at what folk arts of India can truly become. And I think from that having fun, today KTB has become what it is today. So I think the role of ICT has to be to build that ecosystem. Yes, we'll talk about curriculum, we'll talk about training and creative infrastructure so that these labs become spaces where imagination can flourish. And I think these labs have to become truly labs of imagination. But ultimately, the success of this initiative is not going to be measured by the number of labs we create, because I think the sheer number is overwhelming. But I think it'll be measured eventually by the number of creators we inspire, right? Because I think in the 21st century, storytelling is no longer a decorative element. I think it is infrastructure. It's storytelling, in my mind, is infrastructure for propagation and preservation of culture. So I think, like for example, when we look at roads and railways are infrastructure for moving goods, internet is infrastructure for moving information, and now AI is evolution of the whole internet infrastructure. But I think stories are, in my mind, the most critical infrastructure because they move our identity. They help shape the global identity for India. And I think that identity is going to define how the next generation sees itself and how the world sees us. So let me close with this thought, that for generations, our children have grown up consuming stories created somewhere else in the world, characters that they probably resonate or reflect on the culture, right? So I think with these content labs, we have to change that equation. We are telling millions of young new Indians, your imagination matters, your stories matter, our country matters. Because the countries that shape the future will not only export technology or products, they will export stories, characters, worlds, and thereby their culture. And even if one child in a small school uses these labs to bring their story to life, and that story travels beyond their classroom, I think our job is done. you know. So we've ignited a storyteller who can then shape how the world sees us. And that is where the real future begins. So let's get started with the building of these labs of imagination. For these labs are infrastructure for storytelling, you know. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks so much, Munjal. Now let's come to somebody who's also been doing a lot of work in the Indian. I don't want to call it mythology content. I just like to call it heritage content space for such a long time. So Preeti Vyas, she's been a trailblazer in the comic space, having led Amar Chitra Katha for so many years and transformed it into its current modern avatar of the digital age. She's currently president of Mythic, a company that is set up with the goal of taking Indian Eastern stories and showcasing them to the world. Now, obviously, these stories will be best told by people from the countries where they emerge. However, it's important that we empower the storytellers to do so. So, Preeti, how do you see this policy enabling this empowerment of these storytellers from India to tell their stories to the rest of the world?
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Such an important initiative that has been launched. So I think just like Ashish shared and Chaitanya, you shared in your opening address, also Munjal mentioned that the stories are not new. We have this glorious tradition which is thousands of years old. India is a storytelling nation. That's how our stories have passed down, and whether it is through the oral tradition or through the various art forms, whether it's Madhubani or Pattachitra or Gondat or Pichwai, we've always theatre, music, so many different ways in which our stories have been, have passed over multiple generations. Amar Katha alone being, more than almost 60 years old. And now what I'm doing at Mythic again with telling the same stories but in an audiovisual medium. So even though the stories are thousands and thousands of years old, they continue to remain very relevant. They continue to engage audiences. There's so much of whether it is spirituality, philosophy, depth, the richness that our stories contain is just unparalleled in the world. They continue to remain relevant. Comics continue to remain relevant in the AVGC segment. I think we need to always remember to look at the importance of the sea. Amachita Katha still does about 4 million copies in print every year, and that number continues to grow year upon year. And ACK also has amazing digital audience. With Mythic too, we are looking at growing audiences for this content through whatever initial research we have done. We've yet to launch, of course. So I think, and there's also a push from, from various sides. For example, the NEP we've talked about, the NEP does emphasize on application-oriented learning, multidisciplinary learning, creative thinking, design thinking. So while all these things are very much in place, I think Srija ma'am mentioned a lot of the different initiatives that have been done on the education side. I think somewhere the integration needs to still happen. That still needs to. It's not really embedded in our system, in our pedagogy, in parents' minds. And I think that's where these content creator labs can come in. I do remember reading that now, for example, the Bhagavad Gita has been made a part of the syllabus in Gujarat for all school students. These are great ways to get our culture into the mainstream. But how do we embed it? How do we get, like Munjal was saying, create those gyms where children and students can actually like have fun learning and actually enjoy the process of creativity? I think that's where these content creator labs are going to play a great role in getting students excited. On the other side, from an industry perspective, I think there is also an issue of having a trained workforce, right? The pipeline that we need as for employees. Today, when it comes to writing these stories, scripting either for Amachitra Katha or the films that we're making at Mythic, there is no trained, very few people who come with kind of formal education in script writing or in creating the written material, or even the knowledge. So we are looking at hiring history, graduates or literature students. So I do want to tell parents who are listening in that, there is a great demand and a great need for trained storytellers. Whether in writing or whether it's in the art side, there is a great demand, there is a great need, and we need to create this ecosystem of trained, authentic storytellers who come with the authenticity that is needed, like you said, Chaitanya, to actually to tell these stories on a global platform. I think that content creator labs will do an amazing job of bringing the stories and art styles into their powerful, modern, global avatars using best in case tools, technologies, practices. A lot of contests would happen, which will again help us to bring out, talent like Sonam was mentioning from the smaller towns and tier 2 and tier 3 towns of India. That would happen, essentially democratizing opportunities in the entire AVGC space. And creating an ecosystem for industry and industry public partnership, industry IICT partnership. Mala mentioned they've done it with already having an MOU in place. There could be like 100 such or 1,000 such MOUs with different industries and different corporates working with IICT to make sure that whatever is being created, whatever syllabus is being used and created, and the output of the students, and the students themselves all integrate seamlessly into industry. So I think if it goes well and we are able to realize the vision and dreams that all of us have shared today, I think there is space for 1,000 new Amar Chitra Kathas and 1,000 new mythics and all of these to grow and thrive and take Indian stories to the world stage where they rightfully belong. And my own desire is that the next time a movie which is based on an Indian philosophy comes out, it's not called Avatar, but it's called Avatar. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Preeti. Okay, let's next come to Biren. Biren, in addition to Astra Studios, before that Technicolor and ICT, you've been highly active in the Karnataka policy areas, especially a key driver in the art school empowerment that has been done in Karnataka. Could you share some experiences around those and how any lessons learned from that rollout could be implemented at the national level?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you for having me here. I must first of all pay tribute to the Honorable PM, the Minister INB, Shri Sanjay Jajuji, who makes waves in so many ways, more than just the event itself. So great to be part of this ecosystem that's designing the future. So in my 25 plus years of leading large Indian production studios, I've had the privilege of hiring for and delivering world-class projects across animation, games, TV, ads, and all the disciplines. And this has given us the experience of hiring and training, if you like, over 30,000 creative and production personnel. And therefore, I think what I bring here are the learnings from that adventurous last 2 decades. One reality that exists across India, across all studios, across all production houses, is the time, money, and logistic effort that it takes to hire postgraduates and then make them production ready for the AVGC output that we require for here in the world. And I think that's really where we probably spend something like 500 to 700 crores, which is done because of the fact that the foundation skills are not there from an early time. I think that's the opportunity that we are trying to change. So let me give you the example of, we all know here that from 2011 at Karnataka, we have been working across 27 cities, most of them tier 2 and tier 3, where we've kind of helped about 3,500 to 4,000 students, while we still had the grant going from the government of Karnataka to embrace something called a digital arts education that was an optional education. And I think what we're trying to do today is to change this from an extracurricular activity to something that becomes a mainstream. And in order not to reinvent the wheel, I think we signed last week an MOU with the IICT, between the IICT and the 21-year-old ABI, which is the AVGC Association in Karnataka. The real impact of these labs, I believe, will go far beyond entertainment. I see today that aesthetic appreciation is prevalent all around where I work and live in Bangalore. And if I walk into the Mercedes-Benz Research Center or the Dassault Aviation that making the Rafale aircraft, or Target that does retail, they actually have ex-employees from our companies that work in them, and their labs look exactly like the labs in which we create our entertainment. So I do believe that beyond what we're talking about, the impact of these labs will be exponential. I'm also happy to say that very senior members of government from 8 states have visited personally and looked at these labs and what we're doing there. And I think this national initiative is just going to take it to another level. So we know that basically UK, Europe, all European countries, Singapore, they have art as a compulsory discipline until the age of 16. And what I believe the big idea for us now is that we develop a curriculum that does not begin with subjects. I heard Shiraji talk about what we want to do now and what we started doing. But I think that we must consider, I've been a marketeer for many years, we must consider the psychographics of our Indian kids in these different places. And the age band tells us what students can learn, absolutely. But psychographics tells us how they will learn. And I think that basically we, as a marketeer, we do a lot of research, and I'm sure that's there with a lot of companies. At the 6 to 8 standard that we talked about, kids are driven by curiosity and sensory discovery. And in the next level, they look at peer validation and how emerging identities. And finally, of course, they start looking and worrying about the work of the future and jobs. So these 3 sections that Chaitanya presented from where we want to go as IICT, I think we must craft our offerings to maximize these ages and these stages. I do also believe that at the Ministry of Education, when we work with you, we need to ensure that we are shifting curriculum from being content heavy to experience driven. We want to make sure that we move from teaching by instruction to teaching by exploration. And that exploration will explore, as Ashish pointed out, many of our Indian themes and DNA. I do believe that we should go from a uniform delivery, because you talked about languages and the differentiation, to adaptive pathways. We may do different things, according to the level of development in different parts of our country. And finally, I think what we're discussing today is about making the arts aspirational and not obligatory. So while we are making it compulsory, it should not look like one imposition on them. I think India, like every country in the world, is looking at how do we take our youth from idle online scrolling to making a productive use of their right brain. And this, I believe, is kind of our Make in India theme at the student level. So I remember that, when I created long time back, it's 72 episodes on Amazon of Raju the Rickshaw, in order to make sure that people go away from Thomas the Tank Engine and Mickey Mouse, etc. And I do believe Raju can be there, in every one of these creative content labs as a mascot, together with the things that have been created by other creators on this call, and make sure that we kind of move this to the next level. So I'd just like to conclude by a few points. One, if India wants to lead the next creative technology cycle, then these content labs must be treated not as education policy, but as a national economic infrastructure. If $90 billion is going today into data centers, I think 1 billion should go into creating the talent centers. And maybe this is one of those first steps on the way to creating the equivalent of what we're doing with data. The other point I'd like to mention is that when Sanjay Jajuji came and saw the work we were doing for all over the world, creating, Life of Pi and Jungle Book, and he wanted this to be done in India. So I'm happy to tell you that what Astra really is doing today is that 4 senior professionals that manage the world have now moved to delivering, local content, and we believe that we can help and partner and be a partner to the rollout in Karnataka, but also beyond Karnataka, and looking forward to making this progress powered an initiative that's true partnership. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks a lot, Biren. Manvendra, you've been at the forefront of the visuals, the art that we see in almost all the leading video games of the world. You have thousands of young artists working with you in Lakshya. So, what do you think should be the ideal rollout of this policy to ensure a large upgrade in both the quality and the quantity of top level artists in that 18 to 22 age group? Manvendra?
Thank you, Chaitanya. I'd like to start by really saying that how happy I am to be part of this initiative, which really is going to redefine what a creative Bharat looks like in a few years. And also like to thank our Honorable Prime Minister because for having the vision of what the possibilities of what this creative industry can do for India. And Sanjay Jaju sir, for the effort that he's put in, for the push that he has given to make sure that all the bricks are falling in place on that roadmap. You asked Chaitanya that how can we scale this content creation and without compromising on the quality. Now, the important thing here is the fact that how do we get quality and how do we get scale? So far, there was not too much attention on creating a ground for this quality and scale because nobody was really aware of what are the benchmarks of quality. Because I've been part of the global game development for more than 30 years now. So there's one thing which is very clear. Nobody ever compromises on quality. So what is it that we have been lacking and now where are we, which is in the basically now going to make sure that we remove those constraints that we have had. When you're talking about quality, quality will not come overnight. It won't come in half a year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. There has to be a sustained effort in creating a mindset for quality, mindset for understanding that what it takes to get to that level of quality. And that is where the creative labs comes in. Because we are talking about creative labs starting from class 6. So we are not really talking about just exposing people to what games or any creative development is. We are saying we are building from class 6, which is a very, very young and impressionable age, making them understand that yes, this is how you create content, great, but also how are you going to ensure that the quality of what you produce is world class? And that's the reason why IICT is going to play such a big role in making sure these content labs create talent which is not which is at the top of the world. By making sure we bring in mentorship, we bring in talent which is experienced as part of this the content creation lab, so that when students are creating, they are creating with a certain objective. Now, obviously, when you're scaling, you cannot scale at the cost of quality. So these two things are something which have to go hand in hand. Again, when you're starting to create or expose students at a school level, then what you're trying to do is you're reaching, we're talking about 15,000 schools, which is today. Tomorrow, these 15,000 will become 50,000, which means you are reaching out of 50,000, 1 lakh schools and making sure at the school level you are putting those seeds of not just creating or just not content or creativity, but just putting those seeds of this is how you reach that quality benchmark. And that is something which will scale not just quality, but also quantity. Because at the end of it, let's look at why it is important. When we talk about a creator's economy, we are talking of creators at 3 levels. One, we are talking about creators which will create content within India and from India. Two, we are talking about making sure we attract global developers to come to India and create the content out of India. Three, and equally important, is where we are saying that we need to create scale and quality of content so that we can provide services to the global world. Now, that is something which is really, really, really important. We have to address all these three aspects. And if you're talking about attracting global players, they will not come into India if they don't see quality of talent. So content creation labs are the I would say the best thing that has happened to us in the creative space, in our creative industry. Because that way we are making sure that by the time the students reach class 12, which is where they are going to take a decision on which direction they'll go, they already know that they have been exposed to the content that needs to be created and which they are passionate about. They've got an opportunity to do that. So yes, they've learned content creation. Now they've also been exposed to, it's not just creating content which is important. They were exposed to, you have to create it at a certain level of quality. So now they're ready to make a choice. I want to get into a creative content industry, and I know I have the skills because I've been exposed to that. Global mentorship, experience mentorship has been provided to me, so that now I can create something which is going to be of global quality. But now I have We have done this across 1 lakh, multiple lakh schools, which means there's so many content creators which are getting created. So we are creating the skills for global players. We are creating skills for for providing global services. We are creating skills for creating and understanding our own IP. And there's been so much discussion here about creating content using our own stories, our own ancient historical stories. Now, all those things are something which will become part and parcel of what happens in a content creation lab. So between IICT and between the content creation labs, I think we are really set up for success. We are set up for creating a roadmap which will take India to not just a Viksit Bharat. We want to make sure we move towards a Viksit Creative Bharat, because that is where the bigger game is. We want to make sure that India stands out amongst the global creative economy as a place where everybody wants to be, because they know best and greatest of contents is coming out of India. Yes, they also know the talent which exists there is something which is at par with anything that exists in the world, if not better. And they also know that if they have to make great games and they have to make games at scale, the only place they can go to is India, because that has scale and that has quality.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Let's come to our young My Bharat volunteers. Padma, why don't you
Sure.
talk a little bit about what your thoughts are about this initiative, especially when it comes to creating content responsibly, as we spoke earlier. Padma? Okay, I think
Hello,
she
sir.
may be
Hello.
off.
Am I audible? No, no, no. I'm here. I'm here,
Yes,
right here.
now we can.
Okay. So, sir, thank you so much for the
We
opportunity initially
can't see you
for
though.
this day.
We can't see you.
So I think it's audible. It's there.
No, I don't know what's going on here.
So 1 minute, 1 minute. I'm sorry. Right now?
No. Okay. Padma, why don't you maybe disconnect and rejoin?
Yes, sir.
Until then, let's
Is it
talk to
okay now?
Rudra. Yeah. Okay. Now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. And I apologize for joining late. I had my exams. So, sir, this initiative of Content Creator Lab is so much of welcoming because it is something that trains students from the school level itself, not something they have learned from the other sect of the school. But my point right here is I come from a tier 3 city of India named Pathanamthitta in Kerala, where it is extremely famous for its folklores, especially during the festive season of Onam. So for a youth or for a student from a tier 3 city to get such an access or a mentorship for a quality content that should reach to the uh, ecosystem, how is it possible that we could inculcate that into our system and transform our stories, rural folklores and traditions into meaningful digital narratives that is both exciting and entertaining for the people? Because that is what will be a part of the national integration aspect too, as well as there'll be many new avenues to explore also.
Okay. Thank you. Um, Rudra, let's come to you're our second My Bharat volunteer. Rudra, could you speak a little bit about how your life as somebody who's recently been a student, how your life would have been better had you received a more formal, structured education in high school on the foundational aspects of creativity, communication, art, and culture?
Very good afternoon, sir, respected panel members and esteemed dignitaries. Like Preeti ma'am just now mentioned about Amar Chitra Katha, how Ashish sir mentioned about manga. Manga is just a Japanese word for comic. My goal is that when we talk about comics, the Amar Chitra Katha word also pop up in everyone's mind. So, sir, when I was completing my higher secondary education, the media and entertainment industry was just seen as hobby rather than primary livelihood. So Had the opportunities like AVGC content creator labs been mainstream back then, it would have been a game changer. As I was a participant, as you know, in Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue in the track Building a Future Ready Workforce, I would like to contribute in three key ways. Number one, ecosystem mentorship. Mentoring today's high secondary students to make them see the AVGC as a primary career option rather than a backup tool. Number two, industry integration. Knowing software is much different than knowing monetization and global trends. So connecting these raw talents with entrepreneur skills and global trends will be much better off. Last but not least, inclusive innovation. Creative economy opens to everyone, including our Divyang citizens and grassroots creators, because diverse content requires diverse creation. So I would like to convert a demographic advantage into our creative advantage by becoming a catalyst in change, ensuring that the next gen creators have all the facilities that I wished for. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rudra. That was interesting. And now, finally, I'd like to bring in Dr. Vishwas Devskar, CEO of IICT. Dr. Devskar will give us a brief rundown on how IICT is looking at approaching the deployment or the rollout of this initiative. Over to you, Vishwas.
Thank you, Chaitanya. We at ICT, we feel this is a fabulous opportunity and a definite challenge of delivery of CCL, that is the content creative labs, and that to across the nation. This needs tremendous amount of focus, okay? It is not going to be so easily done. It needs tremendous amount of focus. It needs a lot of passion because we need to keep that quality in place all through and also set up a benchmark. So this is going to be a game changer for sure. I'm grateful to the Honorable Minister of INB and of course our Secretary, Secretary of INB, Sri Sanjay Jajuji, for really showing confidence in IICT and allowing us to spearhead this orbit. This is an orbit change. And in this orbit change, in this space, we have to definitely look at a phasing of deployment. Now, when I say phasing of deployment, how do we do it? Should be a phase one, phase two. There should be a pilot, a phase one, a phase two, and a phase three. Why I say that? Because when you do a pilot, it becomes effective or not is to be seen at the ground level. As delivery people of ICT, we will have to make sure that every space and the hardware or the software is centralized, well conducted, controlled by ICT. How much control, how much delivery, and how much of space requirement is something which is under discussion right now. We should be able to finalize very soon. That framework is being put in place after the discussion at the workshop. So the 3-tier lab model will be there. We will have to develop as per NEP alignment, the curriculum that is required because A, V, G, C, XR, and the AI across all verticals will have to be handled in a careful manner. So the train the trainer program is going to be something which is going to be absolutely essential. Therefore, that will be taken into a very important count right now because no sooner that we get the labs in place and the software is in place, we need to make sure that the trainer who's training the children at various levels of 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 or class 8 to class 10th or class 11th and 12th have to be differently poised to ensure that the training is done well. I'm calling it training and I'm not calling it coaching or studying. Why am I calling it training? I'm calling it training because it means there's an involvement of the teacher with the students to ensure that quality of performance comes up and we are able to produce well. Now, this mapping of existing infrastructure is something which we already discussed during the workshop at Delhi under the chairmanship of Sri Jajuji. There is a lot of work that can be done to converge that, and the pilot deployment should be able to do in the short time from now. We're looking at timeframes which are shorter than normal to also allow enable cloud-based infrastructure with shared platforms. There has to be cost efficiency involved because we want to reach out to more amount of places. The more amount of states we cover, the better it would be. how when the phasing can be done in year 1, year 2, year 3, that is how we should be able to phase it out. In phase 1, in the year 1, we should be able to do a pilot and also get the deployment done of a certain number in certain states. So once that finalization is there, I'm sure we will send out a charter for everyone to comply with, and we are confident that we should be able to do it well. Let's see how we go about it. We are very excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishwas. We're at the end of this webinar, but before we wrap up, there's one thing that I want to kind of just talk in a little more detail. People have briefly mentioned it, and we see a lot of parents and students being worried about it, or at least asking questions about it, which is AI. Uh, so AI is here. It's here to stay. It exists in all our lives. It is a great tool. It is a fantastic co-pilot. It can go on to really become a great partner for all content creators in their journey. What people need to understand is beyond what the marketing hype is by a lot of AI platforms, AI by itself will never be able to replace a content creator. It's a tool, a workflow. The creative core of narratology, of storytelling, of the why. Why are you telling the story? Why is this camera angle? Why does this character look the way it is? That will always need to come in from a place of human creativity. And that's what we should do. AI should be treated as a co-pilot. Don't fear AI, embrace it. Use AI to serve you and use AI to make your life better. So with that very, very quick wrap up, I'd like to say thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to all our industry experts. Thank you so much to the MIB team, to Joint Secretary Prithul ji, Vikram ji, and most importantly to Sanjay Jaju ji, Secretary INB for this. Hopefully it was useful and knowledgeable and kind of informative for everybody. So yeah, look forward to the rollout.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.